And I've never actually told this story or anyone. I never
Sweet,
told
let's
anyone.
hear it.
You're always thinking in your head, well, if I just did this or if I had done that, but none of that matters because you didn't do these things. What I've come to now is I trade one setup over and over and over and over and over.
So smart. Okay, so smart. Good job. Hey, what's up, YouTube traders? This is William from Bearable Traders, and today we are lucky enough to have a special guest from YouTube with his own community. This is Justin from Garage Day Trader, and I followed Justin, I think about over a year ago, when I was just getting my daily fix of trading videos. And why I continued to watch him was there was so much transparency. There was no flashiness. It was just about the trading and what he thought about his trades. So I really like that, and I always followed him. And I had never talked with him before. I reached out to him a couple days ago. He agreed to do this interview, so we're so thankful. And Justin, just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at with your trading, and just introduce yourself to the people who might not know you.
Well, hey everybody, I'm Justin. Most people know me as GDT Garage Day Trader from YouTube. Thank you, William, the guys, for having me on. And like you said, William reached out to me a couple days ago. This is the first time we've ever really spoke, other than a couple emails back and forth. So it's kind of a cool thing that they're doing here for you guys, and hopefully it'll be something you guys enjoy watching. Forgot what the rest of it was.
Yeah, do you wanna tell them about your business and your community, just so they kind of know about Garage Day Trader?
So yeah, I mean, my community it's not really, I don't have a chat room or anything like that, or any courses like that. It's basically just the YouTube community. We got the Discord and all that stuff, but it's really just for, especially if you're a beginner and you're still learning about day trading, and it's just one of those channels that you can watch. I'm not trying to force anything crazy on you or tell you this is what you should do or this is the only way to do it or come buy my course so that you can learn. It's just a community that if you guys want to talk about trading and watch some live trading, that's what we do.
Cool, man. So let's just get this out of the way. Are you in your garage or not?
I am 100% in my garage right now. It's very hot. I had to turn my AC off for the interview so that it's not blowing into my mic here. So I might be sweating by the end of this. I'm sorry if I am.
Cool, man. So as we discussed, we thought a really good topic because you've been in this 2 years and you're finding your edge, you're finding your success. You've been through some transitions and some little controversies, I know. And I've been doing it for 4 years and I've had the same path. So I thought, since you like to focus on those new traders in that way, let's share our experience and see how people can relate to it and what we can learn from each other, how we've progressed, what our biggest pitfalls have been. And so that if anyone, the biggest thing that I've realized, Justin, through all this is that traders who trade by themselves and not with the community, they have all the same emotions that everyone else has in the world of trading, but they feel like they're in a vacuum and that no one else has ever felt what they felt, and they don't have an outlet. So let's kind of share our stories so people can maybe relate to it, and we'll just go from there. So you wanna get started with that idea?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I agree 100% with what you're saying. And when I first got interested in trading, really I was trying to find a way to make money without leaving the house, because I was working my regular job, and then I was going off and I was working some side gigs, but I was always away. And I was coming to a point where I was getting married. We were moving in, have a stepdaughter, and hopefully kids in the future. And I was like, okay, I need to find something that I can do that's not going to take me out of the house. At least I can be home, and even though I'm in my garage and nobody can see me right now, that at least I can be around if they need me. So I started looking around, and I found, at first this is probably 3-4 years ago, I found just trading, and I had no idea that day trading was even a thing. I just knew the stock market. I was like, I'm just going to find a stock that's really cheap, and I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to hope it goes up. And
were those stocks penny stocks or regular stocks?
It was. The first stock I ever bought was a penny stock.
Yeah, man.
It was UNXL. I'll never forget it. I put just $1,000 in it, having absolutely no idea what I was doing. And I happened to get really lucky. So I bought the stock maybe 2 weeks before it went through a massive pump and dump. And I was smart enough, at least at the time, to sell it after the huge pump. And I made a good amount of money on just pure luck. But what happened after that was I thought it was just going to happen over and over and over again that way. So I kept buying these really, really cheap stocks, and then they would just die off, and I ended up losing all my money.
Justin, I gotta tell you, that's so funny. My first ever trade, I made $2,000 on it was either a UGAS or UWT, one of the oil ETFs. And I thought the same thing. I was like, is this really this easy? Like,
Right.
is this what's gonna happen every time? Worst thing that could have happened to me ever.
Absolutely.
Can't
Absolutely.
believe that happened to you too, man.
I feel like that's probably happened to a lot of people, and they don't really talk about it because
Yeah.
they're embarrassed, or
Oh.
they kind of try to put that in their past and forget about it. But I think that probably happens to a lot of different people. But
Mm.
so from that point on, I was like, okay, this longer term trading, these swing trades or long term investing, it wasn't really going that well for me. So I turned to YouTube, right, like everybody else does, and that's when I started seeing the people that I don't really want to put their names out there, but
Yeah.
everybody knows who we're talking about. So you see all the people with the turn $500 into millions in a year and all that. I was like, oh, heck yeah, I want to do that. That would be amazing. And so that's how I kind of started my path. And I just went on my own. I just went completely on my own. Everything that I learned from just watching. I literally watched hundreds of hours of YouTube videos. I feel like
Mm.
of just random people, and I had really no idea what was going on. I was like, oh, they just buy here and sell here, and they make money. It's easy. So I opened up my own account with not a whole lot of money in it, but enough that it would affect me if I lost it, and I lost it. And I was completely on my own, and I didn't know what to do. And kind of looking back to having my community now, and with you guys having your community, if I was looking back, I would be like, man, if I was talking to someone, or if I had other people who had been through this and done this themselves in the past, I probably could have avoided at least some of this. When you're starting, you're gonna lose money. It's not a get rich quick scheme. But I think it would have helped me a lot to have talked to people who have done it, who have gone through different styles and
Mhm.
different emotions, and gone through that, making a ton of money and then losing it all right back, which just, I mean, emotionally, that wrecks you.
Mhm.
When you're like, oh man, I got all this money, I can do this, this, and this, and then sometimes hours, days, weeks, months, however long later, all that money's gone. So that's kind of where I started, just from trying to find a way to make more money from home. Going to YouTube, which most people do now. That's how you learn how to do everything these days. That's how I learned how to paint my kitchen cabinets, and so that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, man, let's actually talk about that for a sec because I had the same experience. I put in way too much money, and I've talked about it before. I have no problem sharing. I lost my first two accounts of 25,000 each, $50,000 of
Wow.
doing things I shouldn't have done and not knowing what I was doing. And it was the exact same thing that you just described. And so, how did you overcome that? Because a lot of traders I know, they blow up their first account, and it might be
Right.
small. They might blow up a $1,000 account, and that's the world to them. Or it might be bigger,
Right.
25,000, 50,000, or 100,000. Right? All the traders are on different levels, but the psychological issue on
Hmm.
any of those levels are the same. So it's devastating. I had to take a 6-month break after my second
Wow.
blown up account, thinking I was never going to trade again. I was just devastated and thought I was horrible, blah, blah, blah. Like, you can imagine.
Yeah.
So how did you get over that hump? And maybe it wasn't as bad for you because it wasn't as much money, or maybe you were prepared for it. How did you get through that process so other people who are watching this can kind of relate to it, and maybe it can answer some of their questions and feelings?
Okay. Yeah. So kind of when I started, sure trader overseas, but and I've never actually told this story
Hmm.
or anyone. I never
Sweet,
told
let's
anyone.
hear it.
I never told anyone how I funded my first account, but it
Okay.
was just straight credit card, which is the worst idea
Wow.
possible, and
Okay.
no one should ever do that, because then I was paying all the interest fees and everything. And so after I blew up that first one, I did a really smart thing, and I took out a second credit card to open a second account
Uh,
to do the same thing, and that didn't go well either. So I had to kind of reset myself, and it wasn't a ton of money, so it was something that I could recover and be okay with over time. It wasn't going to, end my life or anything like that, and put me in such a hole that I was going to spend the rest of my life, digging out of it. So what I did from that point on is I started getting a little bit wiser, because at first, like I said, it was just I was on my own, and I hadn't read any books. I pretty much only watched YouTube videos and said, if they can do it, I can do it. I'll just buy here, sell there. It's easy.
hmm.
So I had to kind of pull myself back a bit and reel myself in. And what I started doing was, for probably just 2 or 3 months or so, I paper traded for the first time, because when I first started day trading, I just went straight to live money. I really didn't even know what paper trading was, or that it was a thing at the time. I was like, you're either going to make money or lose money in the stock market, and that's it. And there's no other ways around it. So I went into paper trading, and I started refining what was then my strategy, and it actually went pretty well on paper trading, which a lot of times it does, because you don't have those emotions associated with it, as you know. But that kind of built my confidence back up, and during that time I was able to pay down the credit card, so I didn't have that debt looming over my head anymore, and kind of move on from there. And that's when we kind of started the channel, was right after that whole transition. That's kind of when I started my YouTube channel. And really, the idea behind the YouTube, I never thought I'd have 4,000, subscribers or anything like this, or be in a garage with all this fancy equipment. The reason that I started it was because, okay, even if I know that a couple other people are watching it, and that's kind of what it goes into, like having a community, even though I wasn't directly part of a community, my idea was having people watch me become part of my community would kind of force me to be more disciplined in my trading, because I was no longer just accountable to myself. Because when you're just accountable to yourself, you can go crazy and go wild. As you know, like you said, you can blow up whatever size account that you may be starting with. So when I started my channel, I said, okay, I'll just hopefully get a few people to watch. Hopefully it'll make me more disciplined in what I'm doing, and I'll start to become profitable from there. And that's where the YouTube began.
Yeah, man. So what I specifically heard was two things that I can really relate to. Number one, I didn't start in paper trading. I didn't know what it was. The first trade I ever took was on Trade King, which got bought out by Ally. And yeah, I lost all that money. And in our community, we try to tell anyone who's new or anyone that is experienced, go into simulator, go
Absolutely.
into paper trading. And we don't tell them to do it for 1 or 2 months. We're trying to, like, a minimum of 3 months, hopefully more like 6 or 8 months. But we're trying to show people it's not about the time frame. It's about when you start to get comfortable with your setups, when you start to understand the risk to reward, the probabilities, and when you have a little control over your emotions, even though sim will never teach you the real emotions of real. At least you need to get comfortable with all those things, and then slowly transition into live. Not just jump in, just make it a slow process. So when you went to sim and then to real, how was that transition for you?
Well, the transition was actually pretty good at first, because when I was in sim, I was actually taking it real small and real slow. This was so it was good and bad, I would say. So when I came out of sim, I went back and had a much bigger account that I now started with once I went live again. And I was doing the same things that I was doing in sim, but I was doing it with a lot bigger size. And my first month that I started doing that went amazing. I had a ridiculously awesome month. I made thousands of dollars, and I was like, great. I've got this. And as the market often does, the next month it humbled me right back down with just one day of blowing up everything that I had made that first month. But I was like, okay, I just got to reel myself in again a little bit, push it back down. And pretty much from the start of that for another year and a half or so, I was doing the same thing, the same kind of trading style with that account. And I would have, good month, break even month, red month, and it was kind of back and forth all over the place. But overall, I was green. It just wasn't anything amazing. But I think having that YouTube, and there'd be, people commenting on my videos saying, well, did you see this here? And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. What is that? What is a head and shoulders pattern? I have no idea. And then I'd start talking to people, and I got to know a couple people really well that I still talk to this day from then. And it's kind of helped me along the way, just having that at my back.
Yeah, man. So not only having the discipline and the accountability, you also learned from people who you were watching, but who was watching you, who were watching you. So that's awesome. And so, yeah, for the new traders who are not part of a community, you don't have to be a part of a specific community, but what you do need is a support group of traders that you can talk with, feed off ideas of, go through things that maybe they experienced and share what you experienced. Because, him and I both started losing real money is basically what happens. Worst way in the world to start trading, because we didn't know. We didn't know the right way. So for anyone who's brand new, find other traders somehow, and go into simulator trading. And I love what you say about the accountability. I had that idea in the beginning. I just was too scared. To be honest with you, I thought, wow, if something bad happens, I'm not going to post, and then it's not going to be transparent. And I remember one day I saw you, and it was a huge blow-up day, man. And you made the video, and I think it was a super short video. I don't remember, but I think you were just all depressed. You made the video, but you didn't do much with it, but you did post it. And I was so impressed with that.
Those days are tough. Yeah. And I hated I was sitting here at my desk. I'm thinking, am I really about to put this for whoever in the world wants to see it? Am I really about to put this out there and make myself look like the dumbest person on earth? I lost all this money. Everybody's going to tell me how bad I am. And it was actually really kind of what happened was the opposite of that, really. I actually got, and at the time I was a much smaller channel, didn't have a whole lot of people following me. But what happened was I got all this support actually that came in when I had this big loss, and they're saying, you know, keep going, man. You're okay. You didn't blow up your whole account. You're still alive. Even if you did, you know, what did you learn from this? What can you do differently to prevent this from happening in the future? And not that I did that necessarily right away. Still had many more blow up days along the way after, but they did progressively get to be smaller blow-up days, which is good, because that first, I think my first real big blow-up day was like minus almost $6,000, and it was, and that was more than I'd made that entire previous month. So I went from being, you know, sky high in the green, you know, house money essentially, to being in the red in the course of a day, and that is just tough to deal with. But having all those people there saying, you know, kind of supporting me when I thought I was going to get crushed was really helpful.
That's actually awesome, man. And I don't want to focus on your worst day ever, but that happens to so many people. Can you just quickly go through what happened in terms of the trading psychology? I bet I could guess it in one guess, but because it's probably the same thing that happens to everyone. But just share that with people, and then know that he got positive response from sharing it. If you kept that to yourself and didn't get that support, I'm guessing it could have been a lot worse. And then how did you overcome it? For me, it takes days to weeks when that's happened. It's a slow overcoming process where I don't trade. Absolutely. Then I trade really small, and then I slowly build my share size up. Justin, my worst days ever have come after my worst days ever.
Yeah.
That was the worst when that happens. I no longer let that happen. There's no way I let that happen anymore. Ugh. But yeah, so tell people about that day quickly, and then how you specifically overcame it for anyone who needs those tricks and tools.
Yeah, so like you're saying, I went to my support system, and at the time that was just my wife. And surprisingly, my wife has been really supportive of this whole day trading YouTube dream, where most of the times they'd be like, what? You're watching little green lines go up and down and you're losing money, and what's going on? But I went to her. I was so upset after I made that video, and I almost like broke down after that first big loss. So she looked at me and she said, Justin, you just spent a month making all this money. You can do it again. You'll be fine. Just calm yourself down. You'll be okay. And I hadn't looked at any comments at this point on my video because I didn't want to. But I eventually did, and I started seeing them, and I got all this encouragement. And I said, okay, this isn't as bad as I've made it out to be in my head. Sure, it's not great, but I can overcome this. I've overcome way bigger things in my life than losing a little bit of money, losing a lot of bit of money. I can overcome this. So I did kind of what you did. I didn't, and I've done what you said before, where you have that loss and you're like, okay, well now I got to go even bigger size to recover that loss. And that is the worst idea, the worst thing you can do, because your emotions are at an all-time high. You're going to not respect those stops. It's just going to blow through, and you're just going to sit there staring at that red number get bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's never going to start to get smaller at that point, and then I guarantee you what's going to happen next is right when you finally have had enough and you decide to close out the position is when it's going to come back down in your favor, and you're going to beat yourself up even more.
All right, man. I got to tell you this. Okay, do you know TLRY, the pot stock that went crazy?
Yeah.
During that time it was going crazy, I had a pretty bad day, and I just gambled. I threw so much money on it as a low, and the stupid, because it was, I think, TLRY, and it's like low float at that point or something, the broker wouldn't let me fill Like, it would let me fill
Oh, wow.
CGC, Cron, and they were all moving together because it was when pot stocks were going crazy. And I tried to fill it like 100 times, just kept on pressing it, and it kept on going up. And I was willing to chase it, and I could never get in because of
Right.
whatever rules were there. And it would have saved my day. So I've been there, done that, just trying to gamble, and finally
Mhm.
I made the right decision in a bad way, but I couldn't get into it. Oh, I was so pissed off that
Yeah,
day.
it's tough. It's tough
Yeah.
because you're always thinking in your head, well, if I just did this
Yep.
or if I had done that, but none of that matters because you didn't do these things. Only what matters is what you have done and what you can control. You can't control what has happened or what's going to happen in the future. You have no idea. You do your best to find the best setups that work for you and trade your plan.
Mm,
But beyond that, the stock market's going to do really whatever it wants.
mm,
So obviously there's patterns and stuff and all that, but in general, I'm talking. So after I took that big loss
mm.
and I came back the very next day. If looking back on it, I would have taken maybe a couple days off to get my head back into it. But I came back the very next day and kind of like you said, I had another decent sized losing day. It wasn't nearly as big as the one the day before, but it was still a pretty good sized losing day. And so that's when I said to myself, okay, time out, time to take a break. I took just 1 or 2 days off, and then it was the weekend. So I think I had like a total of 4 days where I didn't trade at all. And then when I came back Monday, brand new week, and just went super small size.
Nice.
Just super small size on everything because I had to get myself back under control, had to be able to build that confidence back up, basically. Because if you don't have your confidence in what you're doing, your emotions are going to be all over the place, and you're not going to be able to control your trading. So eventually, I started getting that confidence back, had a nice streak of a couple weeks of being pretty good green, and then from then on, built back up. Now, we did have a few more of those days in the future, and I've had to repeat the process several times since then. But like I said, we've been making this big losing days smaller and smaller to the point now where I'm not really worried about it as much. Obviously, I still have to be careful that it doesn't happen. But I think I'm at the point now where I've gotten lucky maybe twice recently. But overall, I think I'm in a good spot.
Be careful with that. Being lucky,
I know.
that's the worst, right? And you know it, as long as you know it.
Yeah. Yeah, green lessons are the worst.
Right? They really are. I think I got so lucky on a low float CLDR maybe. Does that sound familiar? That ticker? Did that go crazy a couple months ago? I got so lucky on that. And luckily I got lucky and I said I'm never trading low floats again. And I don't think I did yet. I'm pretty sure that was the last time because I've learned that lesson. Like in our community, we hear it all the time. And it's actually really cool. We can learn lessons like you from your YouTube comment traders, me from other people in the community. Like that helps so much to hear the horror stories and to hear the good stories when they know they got lucky and they say they're never going to do it again. It really helps us to understand what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you kind of have to go through those pains and heartaches and red days to kind of know what not to do. That's a lot of the battle in trading, is knowing what doesn't work specifically for you. Because one of the things I say a lot on my channel, and I've said it a million times, and there's 1,000 different ways that you can trade in the stock market. And really, in my opinion, the only one way that is correct is the one that works for you as an individual. What works for one person may not work for another. What works for you may not work for others. What works for me may not work for you. But it's kind of about finding your groove. When you're looking at that chart, finding that setup or those setups that you look at it and say, okay, this is what I'm doing. Here's my target. Here's my stop. I'm good to go. And that's kind of the goal, I think.
Yeah, definitely, man. And so through all this process, can you share maybe one of your top tips for not brand new traders, but traders that might need some sort of inspiration on something that's really, really helped you? It doesn't have to be a specific trade idea, just something that's helped you kind of wrap your head around this whole thing about how to be successful, or maybe something that clicked. Where I know we still have our bad days, but just something that really connected with you that you think might connect with others who maybe haven't heard it yet.
Okay, sure. So I think there's a few advantages that I have with my trading that's really helped me along the way. Is one, obviously, I'm not doing this for a living, so I'm not depending on the money to sustain myself. So I think anytime you can take any amount of emotion out of the trading, it's going to help you. So just start. I know people say this a lot, and nobody ever really does it when they start, but start so small
Mm-hmm.
that you do not care about making a few dollars even. Just start so small that it feels like insignificant, because you're still, even if you're starting small, going to go through those rough times where it's going to blow up in your face. It's just going to happen when you're starting. It's part of, like, when you're learning how to play baseball or something, you're going to get hit by a pitch a few times when you're standing in the batter's box.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about it when you're first starting out, because there's such a big learning curve that you don't really realize when you're watching me or whoever on YouTube who have been doing it for a while now, and we kind of have at least some idea of what we're doing. And so you see these people doing it and, relatively controlled. I feel like, my emotions, at least outwardly, are pretty controlled when, we're putting it out there for other people to see. So just keep in mind that what you're seeing other people do when you're first starting out you should not expect that to translate to you. And that's kind of one of the things that goes along with starting with the demo account and starting with talking to other people. Just please talk to other people. Find that group that makes sense to you. Find, that community that makes sense to you, and positive community too. There's definitely some negative communities out there. Find a positive, reinforcing community, but one that's going to tell you, okay, man, you need to calm down a bit. I can remember still, there's one guy that used to comment on a lot of my earlier videos when I would like I said, I would have that red trade, and then I'd go real big size on my next trade to recover it, and it would work. And I'd be feeling great at the end of it because I had a nice screen day, had this nice screen day to put out on YouTube. And every time it was the same guy who would comment on my video and say, this is really bad. You shouldn't do this. This is going to blow up in your face. And he would say it every time. And I would always ignore it. I'd say, no, it's not. It's working loud. It's going great. And eventually it did.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just kind of one of those things where the more that you talk to other people, the more you interact, the more you're going to learn faster. And that's one of the things that I wish I would have done differently, is I was on my own. So I had a really slow incline and really steep hill, whereas if I had other people kind of helping me a little bit along the way, encouraging me, I think I could have shortened that hill, made it a little bit smaller as I was going.
Yeah, man, and Andrew always talks about it from Bearable Traders. It's like the easiest thing to make $1,000 in a day, but the hardest thing to make $1 consistently every single day. So you're right. It's like start small, small, small. And that is such a big key. And in terms of what you said, I still have another business completely unrelated to trading. And as of somewhat recently, Andrew was working full time at another business. And I was shocked when I heard that. I think a lot of people were. And it made it like he was so successful. He's so good at what he does. And even he knows what you just said. If you make trading your only way of making money in your career, the pressure mounts so much faster. And it's so much harder. And like a normal, regular loss, all of a sudden feels like the weight on your shoulders. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, anyone who's watching this, be very mindful. You've got 3 people here, Justin, I, and Andrew, who says it all the time. Be very, very mindful of that. Trading is not easy. It's very difficult, and it's so much harder when you only trade and you have no other source of income flowing in.
Yeah, and to kind of go along with that, I get, every so often I'll get a message from somebody, and it'll say, hey, Justin, I really want to trade for a living. What do you think? And I say, no, don't do it. You haven't traded at all yet, and you're thinking about quitting your job to start trading. And it really kind of scares me that they're just going to, quit their job and go full force and make trading a career without ever having traded before. And you just can't do it, because you're going to have that red day, like you said, and you say, oh my gosh, I can't pay my rent. I can't pay my phone bill. I'm in the red, and it's just not going to go well. So just, start with money that if you lose it, no big deal.
Right. 100%. And do you have just one more? Because that was really, really good that I can relate to. So if you got one more, I bet it's going to be equally as strong for people.
One more about starting out, huh? Oh,
no,
man.
It doesn't have to be starting out. Just something that's really connect with you. I can share one.
Okay.
For me, when I first started out, I would talk to my family members about trading. And if we want to talk about pressure, I would share with them when I made thousands of dollars and hundreds of dollars. And I was so happy. And I thought like, oh, this is so great. And I didn't realize when I had losing days, man, I wouldn't call them. I wouldn't answer their
Yeah.
phone calls, and it
Yeah.
affected my trading because now all of a sudden, like of course we trade the P&L, we trade our emotions. Now I was trading my inability to talk with my family member because I was embarrassed about myself. So I
Yeah.
really like honed in all that, made it private for myself in that way, stopped talking about money with anyone unrelated about trading because the psychological effect on me was surprisingly so strong. I was so
Right.
high when I shared it with them, but it was way more devastating about the negative sides of that. So for people who have that outlet or haven't got into trading and want to share it with their family members, just know that for me or friends or family that's not in trading, it was a very hard learning experience that I
Right.
won't ever do again. This is my business. I won't tell them about money, and I'll
Right.
only talk with specific traders who can relate to it, who can support me, and I can support them about it.
Right. Well, that kind of goes to like what I was saying is like, and you need to eliminate every emotion that you can.
Mm.
So in that case, it sounds like you're kind of adding those emotions to it in
Yeah.
that situation. So, when trading, in my opinion, is almost entirely emotional and very, small part of it is actually knowing what you're doing. You need to be able to eliminate as many emotions as you can. And I would even go as far as to hide your P&L as long as you understand what the numbers are behind it and your trade size and risk per your trade and all that would be, I would say hide your P&L. And I feel bad saying that because I have mine, right there on my screen. And really, I would hide mine if it wasn't for YouTube. I
Uh-huh.
kind of just have that there because that's what people want to see on YouTube. So it kind of helps in that. But just find ways, whatever ways it may be, to eliminate your as many emotions as you can when you're trading, and then just journal every single day.
Mm.
I still journal every single day to this day. I prefer kind of manual inputs rather than downloading and just sticking it into a spreadsheet, because when you do it any kind of manually, either writing it down or if you have a manual spreadsheet or something that you type it in, it really forces you to look at your trades rather than just downloading it like onto online or something like that. If you're really forced to sit there and look at your trades afterwards, you can analyze what you did well, what you did worse, a lot better. It kind of goes back to, when you're studying in high school or whatever. If you write down on a note card and, actually write down the notes, you're going to remember it a lot better than if you're just sitting there listening or
Right.
sitting there watching. So
I can go one step forward on this, man, because we recommend this to our members, and we let our members post their trades, and we post it on YouTube for everyone. And one of the reasons we do that, which is what we found, is that the process of posting and creating a video and explaining your trades forces you to understand what you did so much deeper.
yeah,
And so I journal by video journal. I don't write anything down. I do video journaling. And a lot of members that have started doing that, it's materialized in them in helping their trading even more by forcing to go deeper, to not only explain it to themselves, but to explain it to the world and anyone who wants to see it. So that was a really cool realization that we made as a team and as a community, and we started to promote that idea strictly for the benefit of anyone who wants to create their own their own video
absolutely.
journaling. Yeah.
I agree with that 100%. I think it's a great idea to video journal. You don't have to put it on YouTube like
Right,
us
you don't
crazy
have
people do.
to.
Just keep it for yourself. That way you can go back, you can watch what you did, and I would say even like record your face, record yourself talking, so you can see when you go into that bad zone, because you'll see the look on your face, you'll see the tone in your voice. And if you can see that yourself, then it's really going to help you, I think, in the long run.
100%. And I don't always post what I record, but I always record myself, Justin. Now, you do always record yourself. And I've realized when I record myself and I talk through it while I'm trading, and then I listen back to myself, I'm like, oh my God, what was I thinking? That was the best realization ever. Like, I'm not myself. I think I'm myself when I'm in the market trading, but then when I saw and heard myself explain what I was thinking, I mean, I guess for anyone, do that. Record yourself and talk through your rationale of the trade, and then listen back to it. And you're gonna think you might be psychotic sometimes. Did you have that experience at all?
Well, yeah. Kind of to go along with that is I get a few people make fun of me all the time in my videos because I'll say like the same thing over and over and over again in my videos. And really that's just me talking through my plan as I'm trading and reinforcing
Heck
the,
yeah.
the plan in my head because I'm saying it out loud. It's not really for the video. It's just what I do when I'm trading. So I say it probably 4 or 5 times every video, and somebody says, why do you say that every single time? Well, it's because it's part of what helps me to talk through the plan in my head. If I'm talking it out loud, I say, this is what I'm doing. And when you're actually, forcing yourself to do it, it's going to help you a lot.
Heck yeah, man. So when I did an interview with Jeremy Newsom after meeting him and learning one of his setup, I realized how cool it was to talk with different traders and learn a setup that they see. And I think the most interesting thing about it is if we know how other people trade charts, when we see that happen, we'll be like, oh, Jeremy's going to trade that. Oh, this is how Justin's going to trade. What do I want to do? Do I agree with Justin? Do I disagree with Justin? That doesn't matter. But I know how another trader will be trading, which means I know where the buy order will be, where the sell order will be in theory. And that helps our trading. So do you want to kind of end this with the note of sharing one of your top setups, if you can kind of explain it?
Yeah, so if anybody's ever watched my stuff, how I trade now is kind of, a lot of people don't like it because it's kind of it's the inverse of what a lot of people do. So essentially what I'm looking for is a high intensity move, either to the upside or to the downside. So I'm looking at my scanner, I get an alert from my scanner on a stock, I move to the stock, I see that it's made a really big move up or a really big move down in a quick amount of time. So if it's moved, and I short most of the time. So if it goes up really big, it'll most likely be on a stock that's already gapping up on the day. All of a sudden, it'll make another huge leg up, and it's when I start to see the time and sales, the level 2 slow down a little bit, I'll be looking at the daily chart and things, and I'll see areas of resistance and kind of come up with a plan from there. But I will short a stock that is really strong to the green side towards the top. And really, people see this and they're like, oh my gosh, you're counter trend trading and you're shorting a stock that has all this strength. But what I'm really doing is selling where everyone else who has already bought is selling. I'm just doing it in the reverse order of what they're doing and then looking for the pullback. So everybody who's already bought this nice big breakout and they now just got this big green move and they're making all this money. Well, I'm selling the shares right to them. I say, here you go, take them. You're selling, I'm selling, everybody's selling. The stock's going to start coming back down a little bit. So really that's what I look for is just really big, intense moves. And then I do averaging, which a lot of people don't like because they see, other people who do averaging and they just think it's just add forever until it finally works. And that's not how it is. I have a plan. I use, levels in the chart and I come up with okay, if it keeps going and it doesn't work for me, this is where I got to cut it. And so that's kind of what I look for when I'm doing my trades.
Yeah, man. So a lot of people, especially new traders, they won't understand how that works. If people who buy just like a breakout or a strong stock, they buy. And then if they have a sell order simply to take profit, right? That's not a reversal. It's an area of consolidation, but there will be sell orders placed that will overcome the buy orders for that period of time. And then if you can catch those moves strategically with what he's saying is he has multiple things. He's using time and sales. He's using level 2. He's using his, what is it, a high intensity scanner, did you say?
Yep.
Something like that. So he's got a lot of stuff going on to catch the consolidation top to maybe a moving average on the 1 or 5 or something. I'm not sure. So his short order is the same exact order as the buy who is taking profit with their sell order. Overcome that to go down, and then the buying will pick back up. But at that point, he's going to be buying also to cover his shares. But it sounds like you're not going to go long. So I'm curious, man, if within this strategy, why not play, and I'm not saying you should, I'm just wondering, why not play the bounce off that to go another leg higher?
And simply because what I've come to now is I used to trade a lot of different setups. And what I've come to now is I trade one setup over and over and over and over and over. So
smart. Okay, so smart. Good job.
So I'm not going to change what I do. A lot of times in my videos too, I'll say I'm buying here. This looks like it's about to start going really high again. And people say, well, you just called it. It's about to go higher. Why aren't you buying? Because that's not That's not my one strategy that's working really well for me.
Mm.
But like you said, is I'm essentially doing what everyone else is doing. I'm just doing it in the reverse order of what everyone else is doing. So when that stock goes through that pullback and everybody's looking at this strong stock that's now coming into the moving averages or the VWAP or whatever it may be, and they're starting to say, oh, okay, this is my dip buy here. This is where it's getting the support and it's going to go back up. Okay, great. That's where I'm going to buy too to cover out my position and take my profit.
How do you deal with that, man? The more you call out the bounces that you don't take, are you like urged? Like, when was the last time you broke your rule and did it? Or like, how do you deal with that emotion, getting them constantly right but not trading them?
I mean, honestly, it hasn't been too tough because when I changed to this strategy, I think it just meshes with my personality. I'm a very impatient person, and this strategy is generally a lot faster. I don't have to wait as long because a high intense move a lot of times makes a high intense move back down in the opposite direction. The bigger the move, the weaker the trend is kind of what we say, and that's just in a small time frame. We're not talking about like for the entire day. Or most of my trades are seconds to a few minutes tops is what I'm doing. But it's really helped because this strategy I don't even like to talk about the win percent that I have in it currently because most people don't believe it when I say it, but I've been so successful with this strategy that the minute I did this a couple times when I first switched this strategy, I went back and did something that I used to do, and it would be red. I'd be like, why am I doing this? Well, just stick to what works. Just do what works for me and block out all the rest. So and like you said, it's tough because I'll look at it and say, yep, this is about to go up. I'm not buying though because it's not what I do. And you'll see it go to the moon. You know, that stock they say right where I bought to cover my short, and could have gone long there, and then it goes up forever, and you're like, well, I could have made a lot of money there, but I've disciplined enough at this point in my trading that I just stick to the one thing I do. It's the same setup, either short or long on both sides, and I just do that over and over again.
Heck yeah, man. We try to promote that same idea to our members, that master one setup. Some people have to do 2 or 3, like fine. You can pick 1 to 3 if you really need to, because I just understand one might not be enough. Like if someone wants ORB and they like a 1 or 5 minute ORB, 1 minute would be actually dangerous. Never mind. Not saying 1 minute ORB, a 5 minute ORB, and they only get that first 3 to 7 minutes or 10 minutes to trade that, and then they can't trade anymore, so they want like a ABCD, a VWAP bounce, things like that. But really take 1 to 3 setups, master it, see if it works for you, look at the risk to reward. So Justin, like we're cool. I'll believe you. I don't know if anyone else will believe you. What is your win rate, if you want to say, on this strategy?
Oh man. I'm at 90%.
90%.
Now that's 90% green. That's not 90% the trade worked great and came, to my profit target. That's 90% green on the trade. So there's a lot of times that I'm able to kind of work my way out of it and just come out with a small green trade, and that, that goes to inflate that percentage a little bit. But overall, just green is 90.
All right, now let's ask an interesting question. If someone ever tried to mimic your trading live, if you shared them, what would their win percentage be?
It would probably be 10%.
Exactly. Isn't that interesting? We try to tell that to everyone. Learn from us. Learn from each other.
Yes.
We'll learn from you. We have members that we learn from. But the last thing in the world we ever tell anyone is to mimic someone's trade. So when you hear him say he has 90%, but also hear him say, frickin' do not mimic my trading, that's the type of trader you want to learn from. That transparency and that honesty is key to your learning. So
I mean, it kind of goes back to, you have to be able to trade yourself. There's some rooms out there where it's come and just follow my trades and you'll make money, and it doesn't work, because you're never going to get the same price. You're never going to have the same emotions. You're never going to have the same experience as the person who's taking those trades. So you really want to learn how to take the trade yourself rather than just follow someone blindly and hope you make money.
So true, man. This is such a perfect note to end on. I will give you the last word if you want to say anything. The floor is yours, man.
I just appreciate you guys having me on your channel. I mean, it's like I was kind of told you before we started talking, it's a really cool thing, I think, in the trading community when people from 2 different worlds who aren't necessarily part of the same community can still appreciate each other and talk positively about each other. There's enough negativity out there in the trading world as it is, and I think the more that people can do stuff like you're doing with these interviews and support each other, I think the better everything's going to be.
Heck yeah, man. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for joining. I know you're on the East Coast, so it's 10 o'clock. It's a little late for you, so we really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thank you so much, William. Appreciate it.
Yeah. This video brought to you by Bear Bull Traders, a community of serious traders. For more videos like this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.